Welcome in the latest episode of Five on the Floor on the Five Reasons Sports Network. Thanks for finding us on your favorite podcast app. We're on Spotify, we're on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and more. We're also on Dash Radio. Download the Dash Radio app for free. Search for Nothing But Net there every single weeknight at 7 p.m. Also, check out the Five Reasons YouTube channel. We had like 8 shows going there today, so make sure you subscribe. We're just sort of nudging over 11,000 subscribers. Catch the Dolphins free agency show, the free agent blitz that they did today. Of course, you can catch Clutch Corner, Floor's Yours, Before Floor, and all the other Heat products that we put over there. And fivereasonsports.com, spell it out, F-I-V-E, reasonsports.com for all of your latest written Miami Heat content from Brady Hawk and others for free. Also, check out the great sponsors of the Five Reasons Sports Network, including one of our longest standing sponsors, big Miami sports fans, the folks over at Seltzer Mayberg. These are attorneys that can help you with just about anything. You've got immigration, real estate, sports law. They do all of it. Specifically, though, we talk about if you've been hurt in a car accident or slip and fall, definitely call them at 855-5000-LAW. That's 855-5000-LAW, or go to onecalllegal.com. That's O-N-E, calllegal.com. If you mention 5 Reasons, you'll get a free consultation. They got 24/7 availability. They'll make sure to work directly with an attorney, that you work directly with an attorney to get you the compensation that you need. Okay, so go say hello to Eric or Cassandra, Mendy. Everybody down there does a great job. And again, they handle all kinds of law in this beautiful new office in North Miami, right south of the Golden Glades, right off of I-95. So again, it's the Seltzer Mayberg Law Offices. They handle cases from all over the state, can specialize here in South Florida, 855-5000-LAW or onecalllegal.com. And now, tonight's episode.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5
on the floor.
Welcome to Five on the Floor, a daily show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick with Alex Toledo and Greg Sylvander, part of the Five Reasons Sports Network.
All right, Ethan Skolnick back here on Five on the Floor. Here's today's floor plan. I've got Alex Toledo. You can follow him at Tropical Blanket. The Miami Heat finally lose. It's been a pretty great run for the Heat of late, but they lose a close one in Memphis. Just never really got going offensively tonight, even though they held Memphis down in that fourth quarter, had a bad third quarter, and they essentially lose on a Ja Morant driving layup. Some offense, some defensive rebounding problems down the stretch, and just some shooting problems throughout, Alex. And you know, I want to get into that a little bit because I don't want to overreact to one game here because, again, second night of a back-to-back on the road, bit of a tired team. We're going to talk about the Trevor Ariza acquisition, but he's not there yet. We're going to get to that in the second part of the episode. But also, as much as we can just chalk it up and say this is a team that's been playing well, Jimmy's carried them a lot. Tonight, they didn't have Olynyk, which I thought really hurt them because he picked up 3 fouls early, and then very early, first minute of the third quarter, he picked up his 4th, which essentially rendered him pretty useless for most of the rest of the game. There is a consistent pattern here, Alex, which is they're just not getting the consistent shooting, in particular from their core guards that they got last year. There'll be moments like Dragic, having 20 in the fourth, or Hero had a pretty good fourth quarter tonight, but it's not sustained. And then there's a lot of open ones that have been missed this year. It feels like a lot more than last year. Do you notice that? And what do you attribute it to?
Well, it's definitely been a thing. I think it's just kind of been something that's been happening all season where like we already know what they're kind of set up to do, right? Ever since last season, this is a team that is constantly looking to set up open jumpers for their shooters. And last year they were pretty solidly the best 3-point shooting team, or one of the top 3 3-point shooting teams for the entire season. It was a sustained thing for the entire season, even, before Jay Crowder got super, super hot. Like, that was what they were really good at. And it just has not been the case this year. I think teams have scouted, have adjusted, and, pretty much set it up so that they're constantly looking to take away the open jumpers that the Heat were creating last year. And, I can't get into exactly how they're defending the Heat that makes it so much difficult to come up with these jumpers, but it's just true because like you're saying, in every one of these games, like, you're getting one guy who feels it for a quarter or two. Another guy will just have, 2 or 3 guys will have off games. They're not really, like, the shooting part, like, there's something off there. It's not nearly as explosive as a weapon as it was last year. And I was looking at the stats again, and, they're just kind of been middle of the pack in 3-point shooting this year. And I think that's a problem because, that kind of puts more pressure on Jimmy and Bam to create their own shot and do their own thing. And I think that's kind of the next part of this, right? Is do they need another guy who can collapse and who can create a shot for others? Because like Goran really can't collapse defenses anymore. Tyler needs a screen to be able to do stuff. So they're good players, but they're not consistently doing that part of the offense.
Well, and it felt too tonight like Jimmy, although I thought Jimmy played well, he wasn't as dominant as he's been of late. And it did feel like, he forced some threes. I mean, he was 2 of 6 from 3, made his first couple. Sometimes that's the worst thing. We used to see that with Dwayne. Dwayne would make one or two
six
early
threes
and
tonight. Really weird.
Yeah, I mean, he took a bunch, and it almost felt like he was compensating for others. You mentioned Goran, and I do think that is a bit of a concern here. Even that sort of electric fourth quarter he had, I guess it's now 3 games ago, and I think he's 4 of 26 since. It was all jumpers. If you looked at the shot chart, it wasn't anything like him getting to the rim. It was everything kind of, elbows and beyond. And although he's become a very good knockdown shooter there over the course of his career, and he can shoot either off the catch or creating it himself, and that step back is something obviously he can go to. You like to see it where he's getting to the rim a little bit more often because he's been historically such a great finisher. He had no legs tonight. There's just no jump from him. And again, it's a flight. It's a second night of a back-to-back. He's in his mid-30s, but we've got to evaluate it for what it is. I mean, Duncan Robinson tonight had open threes. We've talked about him not getting opportunities for threes. He had open threes, and he was visibly upset at himself for not making them. Hero had good moments in the fourth in particular. He didn't do anything until then, and then came up short on a couple, and then took a really bad shot from the corner. And Nunn has pretty much been non-existent now for 2 weeks, Alex? Like, he had that great month, and it's like now he's regressed back to the mean a little bit. So you're talking about their core guards. I know this is going to raise the Oladipo conversation, obviously, among others. Avery Bradley coming back is not going to solve this problem. Like, it would solve their point of attack problems, but that they've actually done pretty damn well lately, right? So it's either they figure it out with the group that they have, so that there isn't so much pressure on Jimmy, or they'll have to bring in somebody else because Avery Bradley's not solving this. Yeah,
you're right about that part. Like, Avery Bradley is going to be there specifically for the perimeter defense, but like you said, the defense just hasn't been their problem. And although their point of attack defense isn't something that's been completely shored up, their whole defense has just been good as a result, right? Like, their whole team defense has been very connected. And so I don't know that Avery would even get a lot of playing time. I guess we'll talk about that in another episode. The fact that the rotation is going to be, there's going to be a question about that. But as far as what you're talking about here with the guards, like, it's just true. Like, Kendrick Nunn has gone back to not how he was before. I'm not going to say that. I still think he's a competent starter in general, but he cooled down a little bit. I do think you have a point there about Goran. Like, I just think he's kind of in that mode now where Dwayne was getting to in those last couple of years in his career, where it's like he can still give it to you, just not on a consistent basis. Where, like, I don't think Goran, I don't know, maybe it's an overreaction, but is it fair to say like Goran really can't? Do you think he can give you that type of production that he gave you in the bubble on a consistent basis if he wanted to?
Not consistently, no. And I also think that if you look back at it, the bubble situation was ideal for him because as an older player,
those legs were feeling good.
Yeah. The last thing you want to do is travel, right? Like, I mean, he had more time to get his body right because they had nowhere to go. Like, literally they were in the bubble the whole time. So when you wanted treatment, you got treatment, right? When you needed just to relax, you relax. Like, there's not the other stuff that you deal with just in daily life as somebody in your mid-30s. And then add to that the travel piece of this, and then the increase in the back-to-backs. And this is one of the reasons why, they want more depth. And that is why, look, Avery Bradley can help them with that, okay? Because he'll add another guard to the rotation and possibly shave, 4 or 5 more minutes out of Dragic's sort of nightly toll. But again, there have to be moments where he has that burst. And I'm with you. I think he can do it for a quarter now. I don't think he can do it for a half, for a game, or back-to-back games. It doesn't seem like it's there. Now, maybe later in the season, and again, remember, he had a short off season. He had the injury. We didn't even know if he was going to be healthy to start training camp. So some of this is added up. So I do think that's why there was more of a lean on Hero earlier this season. but Tyler doesn't do it. It seems like Tyler waits for the fourth now. And then it's like it gets magnified when he does something wrong. And then Kendrick, again, there has been some regression to the mean. Duncan is not an explosive player. We know that, but he's going to make some threes, and he made some tonight, but he missed more than he made, obviously. And so, again, it does raise the question, is the player on the roster? Now we're going to pivot here because I don't want to over-focus on this. I'll ask you one question on this game, and then I think we'll move on from it. They got a big set against Indiana coming up this weekend, obviously the Friday, Sunday games, where they can kind of bury Indiana a little bit. But I did want to ask you because we have to get to it. Justice played against the Heat tonight. I think this is his 10th game he's played. What did you think of him with Memphis tonight?
I mean, he didn't look like awesome tonight, that's for sure. I think he still does his thing on defense, and that's pretty much what his value is in the NBA right now. I mean, the jumper was just not there. And getting back into talking about Justice jumper a year later, it's just funny to me. But yeah, like I wasn't really particularly impressed with anything he did tonight. I don't even know how he would fit on this Heat roster if we were we're going to talk about him, like how he would contribute here. I don't know. Like, I just think the rotation is kind of all over the place right now. I think Justice played all right, but I do want to say one thing about the way that game ended. Mm-hmm. What was up with that last possession? Like, I don't understand what happened. I don't know there. The one that Ja got to the line. Like, why was Jimmy? Okay, Jimmy was defending him from the side, even though like Ja has the speed advantage. Mm-hmm. Didn't cut him off. And Bam was not on the back line. So that whole possession was weird to me. I just wanted to say that.
Well, there were two straight possessions that were weird because the inbounds, I don't know what it was that Memphis took away. I mean, they were clearly active there, but there had to be a better option than Bam throwing a lob over the top to Jimmy.
It was a complete miscommunication. Like, I don't even think Jimmy was expecting that pass. Like,
no,
he already looked at himself like, oh no, they cut me off.
No, he wasn't. Yeah, no, they cut off everything. I mean, they did a good job. Look, I do think Memphis, the times I've seen them over the past couple of years, Taylor Jenkins can coach. Like, he's one of the sort of the under the radar coaches. They went through a lot of struggle, obviously. I mean, they still don't have Jaren Jackson Jr. Brandon Clark got off to a slow start this season. Ja got hurt for about 3 or 4 weeks. And so, the fact that they're still in the mix here, to me, is impressive. They've got a young team with not a whole bunch of vets. And I think they've done a really good job, and they are well coached. They're disciplined, but still, I mean,
traded their vets for Justice.
Yeah, well, I don't know. It didn't work. I mean, usually Spoelstra's inbounds plays, have some creativity to them. I was trying to figure out. I'll rewatch it. What it is exactly that they took away, but it seemed like they took away everything. And you're right, Jimmy was not looking for that. So there were 2 straight bad possessions. But again, sometimes we dwell on the end of these games, and they did get themselves back into it, but if they just make 3 more open jumpers in that game, which they had plenty of them in the fourth, they win. So I don't want. I mean, I think we can talk about some. I don't think they've had a ton of problems down the stretch of games lately. So I don't want to overfocus on that. To me, the problem that's been more consistent has been they have guys who last year were pretty much knockdown shooters who have not been to that level of knockdown shooter this year, and that does, again, raise the question of if that player's out there. Now, by the way, that player is not Victor Oladipo. But you're right about the fact that Oladipo could collapse the defense and maybe make it easier for these guys, but they still got to make the shots. That's the thing, and it just hasn't happened. All right, we're going to talk about the Ariza acquisition here in a second. Before we do, I want to tell you about Chase Signs. Successful businesses and organizations require quality signs and graphics for a professional look and to entice customers. That's why people are turning to Chase Signs and Graphics. With more than 15 years of experience designing, building, and installing signs, Chase Signs and Graphics is an end-to-end solution for your signage needs, providing everything from graphic design to productions to installation. They offer a variety of custom products that includes building signs, banners, vehicle graphics, lobby signs, indoor signs, monument signs, and more. And their friendly staff will schedule a site visit and have an estimate ready within 48 hours. They serve all of Broward County. Chase Signs and Graphics does. That's all the way from Deerfield down to the Miramar Pines, Hollywood area. If you need professional signage to help your business organization stand out, call today, 954-257-1828. That's 954-257-1828, or check out Signs Broward on Twitter. All right, we talked about this already on the YouTube channel, but you didn't have a chance to have your say there. I did a video, and then we talked about it on Before Floor, the acquisition of Trevor Ariza, longtime Heat target, nearly signed with them in 2014 before the Heat signed Luol Deng. Basically, at the time, I've talked about this before, but Ariza wanted 4 years. The Heat basically gave 3 years to Luol Deng. Ariza took the 4 years from Houston. I think it was 4 for 32. Luol took 3 for 30. But we always talk about this. The Heat come back to players that they've wanted before. It's a consistent pattern. When you start talking about some of the guys that are out there now, like a Rudy Gay, keep that in some context, because that's something that's happened many times. It happened with Iguodala and Crowder, and it happened now with Trevor Ariza. He's been working out in Miami, has not played this season. He's been working out with Remy workouts, which a lot of people know that Heat players have been with in the past. And this is a guy, and he is, and I talked about this the other night. It's kind of the Shane Battier theory. Shane used to talk about, I'd be useless on a bad team because my skill set is not of any value to a bad team, because they'd expect me to do things that I'm not capable of doing. On a good team, I have value. Trevor Ariza, and remember, Shane is in the Heat front office now. Trevor Ariza is that kind of player. Last year, he split his time between Sacramento and Portland. He shot close to 35% in Sacramento. He shot 49% in Portland as a starter for the entire time that he was there, and hasn't been in the playoffs in 3 years. But when he's been in the playoffs, 90% of the time he has started games. Do you like this trade, which is Meyers Leonard and a 2027 second round pick for Ariza? Second, how do you think he fits? And then the other thing I want to point out, our Adam Barai reported, and then I added to it, that the Heat were in on PJ Tucker, but essentially the Rockets wanted Okpala, KZ. The Heat were not going to trade KZ Okpala for Tucker, and so basically they moved on to trade him to Milwaukee, and the Heat got Ariza. So all three of those things. Do you like the trade? How do you think he fits? And would you have given up Okpala for Tucker?
Man, that's a loaded one right there. But honestly, I'm here to answer all three of them. I really did like this trade. I was glad to see, once the details were revealed, that it was a 2027 second round pick, because who even knows if we're going to be alive by then. But really, I just think Trevor Ariza.
Well, you're younger than me. The odds are better for you, so I'll say that.
We'll see.
I don't know.
But Trevor Ariza, to me, like I said on last night's pod, I just think he's such a good fit for that role that, the Heat have been looking for ever since Crowder walked, and they missed out on Morris, and the Mo Harkless experience didn't work out. Is that hole at the 4. And I'm not saying that this guy solves all of your problems, but he is absolutely, he fills right into that slot as a guy who's like 6'9". I think he weighs at around 215. He's looking a little lean, and I think so. He's not as strong as Jay Crowder was, but he does have the height advantage, and he definitely has the length advantage. I know. I'm not sure of Crowder's wingspan right now, but Ariza's is 7'2", and he's a guy who's always been a very good defender in the league. He's obviously older now. I think he's 35, and so this is pretty much just the Iguodala trade, except this is 2.0, except you didn't have to give up anything of value. Meyers was obviously done for the season before the whole ordeal happened. He wasn't going to be a part of the rotation regardless, right? Even if he did come back. And now all of a sudden you have somebody who you can pretty much trust to play there and play those minutes there, guard forwards and kind of take up those minutes, right? And I think you've talked about it throughout the day on Twitter, is like, now you have somebody who you can throw on Kevin Durant. It's not that he's your best, Durant defender, but it's that you don't want Jimmy or Bam defending guys like that all game. And I just think like having another defensive player there who can sink open threes, and I feel pretty good about that part as a guy who's pretty much done that for his whole career and taken plenty. Like, I just think he fits pretty cleanly into that role. Now, he doesn't bring you much outside of just taking open threes and playing great defense, but that's pretty much what they need from him.
Yeah, and I, again, I think limited role that can grow as you get into the playoffs, playing more minutes. And it's similar to the way they viewed Iguodala, but now they have basically two players to throw at it. I like the move. To me, it's a no-risk move.
And he's a better shooter than Iguodala for sure.
Yeah, well, let's not get to the next part of it. Would you have traded? Everybody was mocking me about giving up a first-round pick for PJ Tucker, and essentially, it was a pick swap, but essentially that's what the Bucks did. Would you have given up Okpala to get Tucker?
It's really, really tough. And I think I'm going to say no, but then I feel like in a situation you could have actually pushed me to saying yes. But given the context that they already felt like that the Ariza thing could have happened, I get why they're like, no, let's just go for the cheaper option. But to me, PJ Tucker was the best defensive guy out there, maybe him and Thad Young. So to like that's the one thing he's got over Ariza. I think Tucker is somebody who could play up one more position than Ariza can. But I understand like backing out of that because of having the Ariza deal there at such a lesser price, not having to give up one of your young guys there. And technically giving up Casey Okpala is giving up 4 second-round picks. So would you trade 4 second-round picks for PJ Tucker?
Well, it's funny that was supposed to be the price, right? Didn't we hear that? The Tucker, they were looking for 3 second-rounders.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Here's what I take out of that. Okay, there's a couple things, and I did tweet about this. First, it does show you that the Heat value Okpala, so they're not viewing him as just a throw-in, and we've seen that lately. He got minutes again tonight, although somehow he played over 20 minutes, didn't have a point or a rebound, but they clearly do still value him to some degree. But it also tells you this, that they've been having conversations with Houston, okay, because we know about the conversations with Harden that ultimately didn't go anywhere because there wasn't a match. But then they continued to have conversations with Houston to make this deal. Houston obviously likes Okpala because they asked for him, according to our reporting. The Heat didn't do it, but it does mean that the Oladipo thing, which is still out there, and I know that the Heat's preference is basically wait till the end of the year and get him for free. If he wants to come here, wait until then, okay? But it does tell you that if a trade has to be made, that Houston does have some interest in this player that they've already asked the Heat about. And I'm sure that they've had conversations about Oladipo here along the way. Okay. Well, I know they did, but clearly those have, at least advanced to the point where other players got involved, but not Oladipo. So I think that's something to watch here going forward. And I do think it ties in, Alex, and I know you've been a Depot supporter, and I'm a little bit more lukewarm on it, but it does tie into what we talk about in the first half of the episode, because Oladipo is not a knockdown shooter, okay? But he is a more consistent scorer when he's healthy than anybody that he'd have in the backcourt. And, I just wonder, you can tell that the Heat are moving forward this year with an idea of competing in the Eastern Conference. You make this move today because you believe you can compete. It's a small move. It's not mortgaging the future, but it's something. I know they're still in on the San Antonio situation with Rudy Gay, possibly LaMarcus Aldridge buyout. I don't know about DeRozan because I don't really think San Antonio is going to go that direction, but they're clearly monitoring that situation too. So I wouldn't rule out the Oladipo thing. I think their preference is to wait, okay? And I know that there are some in the organization who are not as big on him, but the conversations with Houston have obviously been ongoing, and obviously there's at least one young piece that Houston likes.
Yeah. I mean, I get excited when you say things like that because just the fact that, Oladipo's price doesn't seem to be as high as it was before. I just I hope it keeps coming down because that's a guy I think I would love to snag at a trade price that just isn't that much. And I get why the Heat would want to wait. Like I don't think of it as an easy decision at all, Oladipo, although I think of him as somebody who would fit theoretically and because of his skill set into what the Heat do and possibly take them another level as a guy who can collapse, like plays for others, defend guards. Like I do think theoretically he would fit in great. It's just about if you trade for him, if you sign him, are you going to be willing to pay that price, right? In free agency, I don't know what he's going to demand. Everything feels so up and down with Oladipo as far as like what to expect from him in the offseason and what to expect from what he's going to offer. What he's going to demand as a free agent, because to me, the talent is there. And I know the efficiency has absolutely not been there in Houston. Houston is not a good team. I saw that stat that, they'd lost like 17 straight games without Christian Wood. So, the fact that, you can't win a game without Christian Wood, like, I just think that's a sign that you're definitely not a good team. I wonder if, that's somebody who you can get remotivated. But I know Oladipo's been hotter as of later. I see him making these jumpers, having games where he hits 4 threes, and it gets me excited because I do think he'll be a really nice fit. And, now that they have Ariza, just another guy that they can add to switching defenses once they start going back to that in the playoffs, as we expect them to do. And Oladipo once again fits right there too. So, by no means is it an easy decision, but man, I think I'm on board.
Yeah, I know you're on board. He's a rhythm scorer, right? And so, it's kind of like Dwayne used to talk about. He's a better shooter from the outside than Dwayne was, from deep. But Dwayne used to say, I'm a shot maker. I'm not necessarily a shooter. And I think when Oladipo's on, he's a shot maker. But again, the question is, how healthy is he, and how consistent is he going to be? But the Houston conversation's going on. Once you develop a relationship with a general manager, everything's getting talked about. And so that's why I would certainly watch it. We know that Riley has a relationship with Pop. So watch the San Antonio situation pretty carefully too. And don't take your eye off Toronto. They're not playing well, particularly well right now. And so the Lowry thing is still kind of hanging out there. And again, I do think this has been a little bit of a trial period with the Heat guards to see if they could get consistent. And the consistency has just not been there. Defensively better, no question, but offensively just too many nights like tonight. All right, check out our sponsor, Seltzer Mayberg, onecalllegal.com if you got any kind of legal difficulty. And obviously, Chase Signs and Graphics if you're anywhere in Broward County. I didn't mention them during the show, but mybookie.ag, use the code 5 and enter their March Madness tournament. The tournament is actually starting on Thursday. I know nobody in South Florida actually recognizes it, but it's actually going on down all across the country. So go to mybookie.ag, spend $1, enter their tournament. All right, have a great night.
Thank you for listening to the 5 on the Floor on the 5 Regional Sports Network.